as I was saying before, Mike has come highly recommended by some colleagues of mine in strategic health. And this is similar to the stuff we were talking about increasing trust membership of Cheshire and Wirral, you know, so that you can have more of a say in how mental health services are delivered. And it's also as well about empowerment, because as I was saying earlier on, for the last 7.5 years we've been working steadily towards giving you more and more control over what happens at Prenton and the other two centres, because they have service user meetings as well. So this is, I'm going to step out of this and let you listen to what Mike has got to say, and I'm sure Roland and Sylvia will be chipping in as well. Yeah. So I hope you enjoy the talk. Grateful thanks to Roland and Sylvia and Mike for allowing us to film a few little snippets. So,
well, I've worked in and about the field of, shall we call it, psychiatry and medical psychiatry for, I don't know, 1979, 80, so 30 years. I know I'm still stunningly young looking, but it's about 30 odd years, and my sort of separation, I've always been I don't know if it's a thorn in the side or a bit of a renegade, as I think a lot of mental health workers are. I remember training, I remember lecturing 1980, 1981. I never wanted to work in psychiatry. It's a bit like when I say that, it's a bit like the Lumberjack song, Monty Python. I didn't want to do it. I was in the Air Force. I was off on a totally other career. And I ended up in a career called psychiatric nursing by absolute mistake. It was just a fluke. And certainly I had no interest. I didn't know anything about it. I'd certainly never read Jungian philosophy or Rogerian work or Ronnie Lang's work in Dingleton. And I ended up there, and I can still remember the point when I thought, I really don't understand the absolute basics of the field we're working in. I still do work very much in basics. And it was when we were doing something those days, and forgive the old terms, but there was something called Schneider's 7 first-rank symptoms of schizophrenia, which meant how do you diagnose somebody as schizophrenic? How do you know schizophrenia? There's 7 features, one of them, and you are schizophrenic. And I had 3, which is how I knew that it was nonsense. It was a crazy system. And that these things that people were calling as fundamental facets of mental illness, and I have no doubts that those things could drive people crazy, but in themselves they weren't what they said they were. And so ever since then, I've sort of had a bit of a difference of opinion. I know people used the word before, about people being in psychological distress and psychological crisis and difficulties. And it's certainly very much what I've seen with people, that people do have difficulties. But I'm not convinced that a lot of the systems we have in place have been very good at actually helping people with them. Bearing in mind I've made a decent career out of it and got paid, as a number of us have in this room, out of it. And I don't think I was on my own, because I certainly think a lot of mental health workers I've worked with. I ended up trying to change the health system. I worked as I was director of nursing in Birmingham, and more latterly clinical director, as we tried to change a lot of how we spent our money in mental ill health. I sort of think what we had in Birmingham was mental illness. And everything we had was a system that created illness in people, which isn't bad if you get out. So those of you who've been through an illness system and you found it helpful,
I know.
Fine, that's up to you.
Yeah,
but for people who don't get anything from that system, what do we do with them? And it seemed we've developed a term. It was a team I worked in Wisconsin in 1997 called assertive community treatment. What do? You assert more of the same. Now, the whole principles, have you ever heard of assertive outreach and assertive community treatment, were not about asserting more of the same. They were about doing something different, and if clients don't want to engage with you and they don't agree with what you're telling them, well, just try to do something differently that does help them. That wasn't necessarily how it got interpreted in England.